Scott Barber.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Welcome, Scott Barber.
Well, thanks for having me.
I will make the same sort of offer to you. You're welcome to use the headset if you like. Otherwise, if you prefer to go without, then go without. Where did he get... by the way, below the frame is a lovely adult beverage. That
You know what? I'm
Scott
not shy.
Yeah, there we go.
And I will tell you this. I won't make a full unpaid advertisement, but I will say this. There's a new vendor in the running for Scott's Pet Vendor because the vendor walked in and he said, I bought this round. She's coming up. So I'll point out which vendor it is to you two when we're off the air.
That would be fabulous because I
Right.
think we have drink envy.
Right.
Because all we have is water.
Right.
So sorry.
It's all right. We'll fix it.
Scott, so why are you here today?
Why am I here? Because you asked me.
I mean, on the
You guys
show.
are
No, we want
cool.
to talk to you, and I like to talk to you all the time, but...
No, this is Cast, and Cast is, Cast is special to me for some personal reasons. You know, I was really very involved in developing some of the early casts and putting it on, and organizationally and all that stuff. So that keeps it near and dear to me. But this time, I'm just here. Volunteering and helping out. And so it's a different perspective for me this time. Instead of being on the organizer side, I'm more or less on the attendee and participant side. So, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And, for, our ones, apparently, of people out there who may or may
Thanks,
not.
Ben.
I know at least my mother
It's
is
more
watching.
than that.
Yes.
Well, hey, there can be a lot of ones.
They add up.
Right, especially in binary. Right?
That's right.
But for anybody who might not follow me in particular, I go to a lot of conferences, and they all have personalities, and it's really. I was over there thinking about this before the adult beverage came. That I'm really intrigued, if you will, by this year's theme, the Thinking Tester, because if I were to classify Cast, Cast is all about thinking, right? The speakers come to share thoughts and engage the audience in extending and testing their thinking. The attendees come to be challenged and to think. There's a lot of other conferences with different personalities. If you go to a PNSQC, I would call that a learning conference, right? It's very hard to get accepted. You have to write a paper, and there's, it's closer to proofs and case studies, and you can walk out with stuff and go home and apply this stuff if it applies to you, right? But it's more teaching and learning. You can go to a STAR, and it's more an exposure conference, where that's a great place to go if you're new or you don't know what's out there, or you've been out of the loop and you want to see what's new, and you go and get exposed to lots of stuff. But here everything's about thinking, and that is as an attendee type person, that's what I appreciate, right? I don't want to be just talked at. I want to engage and be engaged. So that makes Cast a place that whenever I can, I really like to be. And it's all about people, right?
Right.
It's all about people, and not just the old friends that you come to meet. And it's not that doesn't happen, but I was just sitting over there talking to your last guest, just talking to Ian, having this great conversation that just goes. It's deep. It's not superficial. It's real. It's deep. Everybody's extending what they know and what they think. So why am I here? That's why I'm here. I'm here to melt my brain and watch it ooze out my ears and go home and post-process and come up with some new ideas that might or might not be any good, but they're new.
Right. So, I mean, this is a new perspective for you, or it's a perspective you haven't had for a while since you've been, putting on these conferences. What would you say is the talk that you liked the most, or the one that you went to the most, or loved?
So I was helping out with the board with the streaming. So I saw the emerging topic stuff, and I saw the lightning talks, and I'm not sure that I can classify a talk, but you know what? I heard two themes that because it's what I do. I see patterns in things, right? It's just can't help it. Gift, curse, you decide. But two things came up several times that just really intrigued me. One was a recognition of a communications challenge, of semantics, of how, at one point we were talking about test automation. And the room recognized, wait a minute, we're all saying test automation, but are we talking about GUI test automation? Are we talking about automating unit tests? And oh my goodness, if we testers in this community don't even know what that phrase means to us, how in the world are these managers and executives and other people supposed to know what we mean? And so watching that realization among the audience in several it spanned several talks to get there, and to have it come up again, that fascinated me. And the other kind of piece of recognition that I saw that came up a couple of times was kind of a challenging, a different kind of challenging of, I want to say traditional, but really, is our industry long enough to use that, or old enough to use that word? I don't know. But commonly held thoughts about what the heck is this testing thing? What's it for? And it almost feels like, I hate to use this, it feels very strong, but an awakening to the fact that somewhere along the way, we maybe not us testers, right, but the software industry or the managers or the companies, I don't know, lost track of the fact that testing isn't a checkbox. It's not just checking. It's about something bigger. And a couple of casts ago, I got to sit next to Jerry Weinberg at dinner, and we had this great conversation. But what I really took from it was, they didn't have testers on their team at the time. But man, they tested stuff. And it wasn't all developer testing. It wasn't all unit testing, right? They'd write their piece, and then they'd code review with their peers and do all this other kinds of tests. Of course, they didn't have the UIs and whatnot, but the point was they shifted roles, and they tested and they delivered. It wasn't a separate phase. It was part of good engineering practice. And somewhere, I like to talk about it as around the between the Y2K non-meltdown and the dot bomb, right? Everybody that could spell code became a developer, and what were we left with for testers? Anybody else who didn't have a job, right? And I don't mean that wrong. That's when I became a tester. But the truth is, the bar to entry was very low, and a lot of people became excellent testers. I'm not trying to knock on the individuals, but from a corporate perspective, right? They just went, "You over there, come test." And somewhere in that process, all those people that were line managers and getting their first experience with testing at that time, they're now executives, and that's the only perspective they have. But yet, somehow, it seems like we're starting to take a step back and go, "What's the point? What's the point?" And that's brilliant to me. So those two threads seemed very common across talks, and that was the thing that really struck me this time more than any one talk in particular. Was this, it's when everybody's on theme, on a stated theme, that's cool, but when a whole bunch of people start talking about the same thing that wasn't previously stated, say, "Oh, come talk about," that intrigues me. That organic stuff. So that's an indirect question or answer.
That's fine, and and this is cast, and that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah,
indeed, indeed. Any other takeaways from the being behind the scenes this time around?
It is a different perspective. It is a very different perspective, and what I got to see this time was, instead of running around and taking care of stuff, I got to watch more of how people react. I got to see confused looks turn to light bulbs, turn to smiles, right? And see who at the end of a talk huddled talking about what. And I realized even more than I already believed or knew, the way in which people come here and they form relationships and they really, they don't stop.
Mm-mm.
Right? I mean, I knew that because I've had to kick people out of rooms when the hotel says we have to clean up. But here I got to see it from how do we get to 3 in the morning as opposed to, wow, they're still going. And and folks walk out of here, out of a couple of day conference with friends and peers and collaborators that I'd say last forever, but certainly last well beyond the boundaries of the conference. And I don't think that's common. I don't think that's common at test conferences. So that's really cool.
Indeed, and it's unique to Cast, and one of the reasons that I think a lot of us who are regular attendees come here is that it in a lot of ways it's like family.
It is.
Everyone, and we're always welcoming new members, and no joke, people were here until I think the latest I heard, and I don't know if you heard later than that, was 3 in the morning.
Wow, I heard 1:30, which was still pretty
Yeah,
late.
I caught a couple people that were up till 3 doing testing games and talking and going through stuff, and you just don't get that anywhere else.
Right.
And a lot of people will dive out of sessions to keep going with what they were talking about, and that's something you don't get anywhere else.
Now the energy is amazing. I mean, every once in a while in a local or established community, I'll see something similar. Right, but in a conference like this, where it's truly an international draw, people from all over. It's not, oh, you work across the street from me, we should go have lunch. No, you are 11 time zones away from me, and you're really cool, and let's set up a Skype chat because I want to talk to you about what you're doing and learn from you. That's very different. That's very different, and it's just not. It's not common. It's not common.
No, it's not. So you were the voice of the emerging topics track this year, and what are your impressions about that part of it?
I have been, I'd say experimenting, but it's more than experimenting. I've been actively trying to figure out how to bring more information to more folks using the technologies that we have online. And man, I've been asking myself for a long time. I walk into companies, right? I'm a consultant. I walk into companies. I see the conference call camera and the big screen and then I, hey, can we spin this thing up and have a meeting? And they're like, oh, nobody knows how to work it. And I'm like, you're a software company. You're a software company. Come on, you can't use whatever. And people just aren't making use of this technology. So I'm thrilled to see it happening. And but on top of that, even here where we took a step up, we weren't webcam and laptop whole thing that says Mick, right? But even still, it wasn't that hard. And so really for anybody out there that does any whether it's a conference or heck, I don't know, even if you do your monthly user group, you know what, streaming, it's just not that hard, and it's worth it.
Yes.
And it's worth it. So from that perspective, I'm thrilled. From being the voice, you know what, it's just fun. My favorite part, I got to tell you, and it really has nothing to do with the conference, but I decided coming in that I was going to go for the golf announcer voice, right? Mellow, calm, quiet, right? Trying to take myself to make it not my show, but Cast, right? Because I do some other webcasts and streams and whatnot. And I don't want to say they're all about my personality, but they're advertised as hosted by Scott Barber. So I wanted to try something different, and it thrilled me when 15 minutes into the telecast, Adam Urett tweets, Scott Barber sounds like a golf announcer. Like,
Can you, I mean, we have a pretty good setup right here. Could you give us a little bit of an example of your golf announcer voice?
Oh, it was just very quiet. And right, so welcome to Cast Live. Today we're going to have the emerging tracks topic. we're setting up the room right now, and in about 5 minutes we'll get right.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I agree, and I think that I would like to see more testers using and leveraging the technology. The fact that we can sit at a table in the middle of a hotel,
right,
and be able to have this conversation with you and let other people share in this experience is amazing. And I think that I hope to see this happen more and more in our community, and actually bring us together and be able to share ideas in the future.
I agree, because the technologies and the industries that we deal with move so fast. And testing as a whole, right, doesn't evolve at the pace of our technology. And part of that's because where do we spend our time? We spend our time in our companies doing our jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But who's out there really evolving us? Well, guess what? It's us.
Right.
And so we get together a couple times a year at a conference or a user group or something, and we make these cognitive leaps in our thinking that then takes months to process out, and a couple of phone calls, and you promise you're going to write a paper or a blog post, and then you forget, and the next year you come back and you try to do it. And it's no wonder that we're kind of lagging. There's no reason for that.
Nope.
Who doesn't have a webcam and a microphone these days?
Start.
Go.
Just do it.
Just go.
Do it. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Scott, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. And I don't know when you're wrapping up, but
Pretty quickly.
Cheers.
Pretty quickly now. Thanks, Scott.
All right,
Thank
cheers,
you.
guys.